Hi, everybody, and welcome back to On the DL. I am super pumped today because I'm connecting with a woman who I've wanted to connect with for a very long time. One, because Emily Lyons, you are so inspirational, but two, because your story is so incredible. And I know you're going to move people with your authenticity today and by speaking out loud here on the DL. So, welcome, Emily Lyons.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
How have you been?
I've been okay. Yes, I've been okay. It was a rocky few weeks, but been a great last couple days. So
Okay.
I'm grateful.
You know what? I want to tell everybody who you are first, and then we're going to get into everything about you. I literally want to talk to you about everything. I feel,
Let's
I don't know
go.
how we're going to do that. I don't know how I'm going to, I'm like from your past to your present to NFTs to your dog to the future. I have so many things I want to talk to you about. NFTs for sure. We have to talk about that. So first I'm going to read your bio and then we'll get into it. Cool.
Sounds
Okay, cool. It's such small print too. This glasses are a new thing for me, but here we go. Emily Lyons is the founder and CEO of North America's top event staffing, the multi-award winning Femme Fatale Media Group. Emily has gone on to launch and scale several other successful companies, including Lyons Elite Matchmaking, True Glue Beauty, Femme Fatale Public Relations, JWLS Accessories, and the Julia Lyons Foundation. Emily is a champion for women in business, mental health, and cystic fibrosis. Emily has been featured extensively in business-related pieces in Forbes, Huffington Post, Bloomberg, Entrepreneur, Global News, Maxim, FHIM, FHM,
FHM.
Sorry, I can't even see my own writing. New York Post, Globe and Mail, and more. So we have lots to talk about today. Oh, wait, and I have to just mention your podcast, which I've been a little obsessed with over the last couple of months. The
Yay.
Mind Your Business podcast. Do you love podcasting?
I do. So much fun.
You're so good.
Really? Thank you.
Yes. You're very, I mean, I'm assuming you don't have like formal media training.
I don't know.
So you come by it honestly, like everything else that you do, you put your heart completely into it and it shows. And I mean, I love it. I love your podcast. So
I think
everyone
the
who's
trick is
listening will go.
just finding something that you really love and you just want to talk about. And then it does just
That's
kind
what
of
you do.
happen. Yeah.
And it's such a nice balance between guests and just you speaking. Because there's some episodes where you're just chatting, you're just talking about a certain topic. And that's to me, I'm sure people feel this too with you, that they feel connected when you do that. Do you get that kind of feedback?
Yeah, I do. And I love that. I love that. I've even had sometimes people come up to me at events and yeah, give me hugs and say, I feel like I know you.
Really? That's so nice. So
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about how you got started because being a serial entrepreneur, which you are, you have all of these businesses. I think it's fair to say, um, I don't want to say that you are older, but you are on the younger scale, I guess, of being an entrepreneur, which is extremely impressive. And you have all of these businesses that are thriving. It's not just one, not just two, you have several. So maybe take us back to when it started for you.
It'll be 13 years this July. So 2009 was the year I started my first little business baby. But I was habitually unemployable. So going back there, couldn't hold down a job, didn't have any passions, really was a bit of a lost soul, high school dropout, couldn't make ends meet. And my sister was trying to help me, trying to encourage me, find something that you love. And so she sent me a book. This was back when Amazon was just books, and it was called Career Renegade. And it was all about how to make a great living doing what you love. And I got the book from her. She kept nagging me, read the book, read the book. And so I read the first few chapters, and automatically this lights just switched on in my mind of, oh my gosh, I want to take something and turn it into a business. And once I'd had this idea, I went and I talked to a few different people, and all of them told me, no, don't do it. And I don't blame them. They were coming from a place of love, I'm sure, because they wanted to protect me. I couldn't even hold down a job, let alone start my own business. But after I had this idea and this spark and this just these butterflies, I had to follow it. And so thank God I did. But bought business for dummies, small business for dummies. And I was off and running. And eventually I figured out how to make it how to make it work, the rickety ship that it was, and really learned what it took to get a business off the ground and then to scale it, and then was able to replicate that in other industries.
So when you say you couldn't hold down a job, what was it about you in those younger years that, what do you think it was? Maybe it was just you weren't mature enough, or you really lacked passion at that point?
I didn't like working for other people. I didn't like the job. I didn't have passion behind it. I didn't like how they ran things. And I was immature for sure. But really because it was work, having to clock in and out and just spending all that time doing stuff that you hated for minimum wage a lot of the time. So barely making ends meet, if that, a lot of the time not making ends meet. And so it was frustrating. And so I'd go from, retail job to serving tables to being a housekeeper to cleaning at hotels, all different things. Pretty much everything you can name I did. I was a nanny. I worked on a farm. So
what was your favorite out of all the jobs you didn't like? What was your favorite job?
You know what? I liked being a cleaner. I really did. I liked going in and seeing this big mess and then leaving with it being this beautiful, crystal, perfect picture.
Right. It's an accomplishment, right?
Yeah. I don't like cleaning my own house, but.
Right. Exactly. And so, I mean, I feel like, it's interesting because I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm part of an entrepreneurial network myself, and I'm so inspired by women who really come to the forefront with their life and their story, and they say it only started to click for me when I really started to live my authentic self, when I started to be true to who I am. And maybe for you it's that you didn't want to work for other people and you're not making money right away. I mean, it's a very hard thing to do, to start a business. But every single woman, I'm speaking specifically about women that have started off, will say it turned for me when I started to live my authentic self.
Oh, 100%.
It's true, right? When you make a change and say something clicked, and I'm starting to feel, sure, I've got all the angst and worry about finances, but there's something in me, that desire, that burning, that passion to do something. And then they run with that and it never goes away. Do you feel that way?
It was never about the money for me. It was about the freedom and the passion, and the money was just a byproduct of that success. But I remember writing down, if I can just make $30,000 a year, I'll be happy, because I'll be able to work for myself and afford my terrible basement apartment at the time and food. And I'll be happy because I won't have to work for anybody else. But I remember when I started and people started saying to me, you work all the time. And every time I'd hear that, it would be so shocking to me, because I felt like I was never working, because everything I was doing, I was just so in love with. And so none of it actually felt like work. And so it was that mind shift of, when you really and truly, when you're doing something that you love, it isn't work. It doesn't feel like work.
I love that. I love that so much, because it is so true. It's really true. And I want to talk about a couple things from your podcast that really resonate with me. And I think people, when they hear it, they'll probably feel something as well. So we can jump back and forth on the podcast part of it, because you had an interview. It's Keith. I'm forgetting Keith's last name from Time.
Grossman.
Yes. Okay. That was an amazing interview, by the way.
Oh,
it was incredible. I loved it. You guys have an amazing connection.
Yes, he's a close friend.
He's amazing. But he talked about the idea of balance and having it all, and what that really looks like. And I loved that he was so honest about it, and that you were so honest about it, and that he was saying, well, you can have it all, but you can't have it all like everywhere, right? You want to be all that professionally, you need to be all that professionally, right? And he was saying, I work 7 days a week. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning every day. And some people think I'm nuts, but that's how I live my life. And I'm very successful. And you understood that. You get that.
There's no path to success without sacrifice. You've got to sacrifice something.
What do you feel like you've sacrificed?
I don't feel like it was a sacrifice for me. I feel like, going out and partying and things like that in the last 13 years. I mean, I haven't had a drink since 2011, but I think for me, that is good. That is how I enjoy it. But also to focusing on a family. I don't have children yet. And so I think that that's definitely been a sacrifice. But I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world because I've loved it.
Do you see yourself having children? Do you want a family? Do you feel like that's part of the balance for you?
I hope so. I mean, I've never really had that drive that women talk about, that where their biological clock is ticking and they've got to have children now. I've never had that. Maybe one day I'll wake up with it. Maybe I fulfill my children through my businesses. But if it happens, fantastic.
That's funny you say that, because I I felt the same. I know people listening to this will say, "No, what are you talking about? You have so many kids." I acquired many along the way, but um, I remember that my boss at the time, I was working in news, and my news director at the time brought me into his office, sat me down, and said, "I need to speak to you about something. It's quite private and it's personal, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I think you should have children. I think you should. I think like you should go like get it done with. Like you're young and you should have kids. Are you thinking about having kids?" And I said, "I am, but I'm in no rush." And he said, "Okay, I said, "Are you like fishing? Are you trying to figure out like what am I like, And he said, "No, I'm not doing that at all." He was doing it almost in a fatherly mentoring kind of way, saying, if you're thinking about it, you should do it, because it may come and go. And I thought, I don't have this desire. I don't
Yeah.
feel like my biological clock was ticking. Now, in retrospect, I'm glad I did. I mean, I love my children, of course, and my children, but I get you, because I was so driven by career. I was so driven by my work that it just, and also those baby years just kind of came and went. It was like, oh, I had a baby. It was on mat leave. I couldn't wait to get back to work. But I've loved being a mom, but I understand what that feels like. There's so many norms. Like society tells us that we're supposed to be a certain way as women, that we're supposed to feel certain things, and you can't have it all. You can't be successful at a certain age because that's when you're supposed to be baby making. But that's such a load of shit, right? We can be successful and compartmentalize when we want to have what we need to have in our life. And you've done that so well. You've done that with unapologetically, and you've done it, which leads me to my next question for you, which I know people say this about you, that you lead with kindness. And I know that is part of your platform, and you've talked about it for 2022. Like, it's just time already, people. Like, just be nice. But people who have worked with you, and I can tell by the way people interact with you, both socially and on your podcast, have an admiration for you. And that's one of the many reasons I wanted to connect with you, because it is hard to find young female leaders who are consistent with their messaging, and yours is lead with kindness. So maybe you can tell me how you always are leading that way. How do you do that?
Absolutely. It's funny because a few years ago, I had some different people reach out to me and ask me to come speak to their company on my personal brand around, being a kind leader and stuff. And I said, my personal brand. Luckily, yes. It was, we didn't talk about that back then. It was just who I was, and I just showed up who I was, and it ended up being my brand. But I think that goes back to, growing up in a small town and coming from a lot of trials and tribulations and traumas. And it was just who I was and who my family was. We were just kind people. And I remember one of our first clients said to me, I'll never forget it. We had this big event and we were at Lobby. It's no longer there in Toronto. But he said to me, Emma, if you can keep your kind nature about you, you were going to be very successful. And that really stuck stuck out to me because I thought, really? Because I had that, that old, cut, nice guys finish last, and you have to be cutthroat to be successful, and all of those things told to me, like a lot of us were. And so I thought that that was a negative to me, was that I was really sweet and kind, and that I had to work on that. And so that I'll never forget it. But as I started to grow and learn that you can have that balance of being strong and driven, but still be true to who you are and be that kind person, be empathetic, you will be very successful, because it comes through in so much of what you do. When you are a kind leader, it shows through in the products and the services that you actually create. It shows through when you are a leader. It shows through with your employee retention, all those different things. So just being who you are and just being a good human. I think that it's one of the best things that you can do if you want to be successful in business.
And I think being a good human is really, it's not just all the rage right now. It really is the key to success. You have to be a good person.
Mm-hmm. You're eventually going to get called out otherwise if you're not.
Yes,
and
I agree.
What do you want your legacy to be? I mean, when people think about you, what do you want your legacy to be?
Exactly.
And if it takes you walking all over everybody to get successful, I mean, is it really worth it at the end of the day?
I bring it back again to when I started out. I had so many dreams in my career, and people would say to me, "You're way too nice. You're way too nice."
Mm-hmm.
What does that even mean?
Mm-hmm.
And one person had said to me, "Do you know what a diva is?" I said, "Of course. You should get a little more diva-like." I thought, wow, like, how do I do that? I actually had to ask how to do that. And it didn't work for me. It will never work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assertive, I'm authentic, and I like to speak the truth, but I like to be nice. I don't know how to not be nice. And I've worked with a lot of not nice people, and I've seen how they have really, really risen. So it's an interesting, every area and every field, every industry is different. But I think at the end of the day, you have to put your head down on your pillow. You have to be able to like yourself, right? At the end of the day. And if you're leading with kindness, you probably will have that peace. It sounds like you have that.
You might not always win when you when you're always trying to lead with kindness, when you're trying to do the right thing, especially when nobody's looking and nobody sees. But at the end of the day, for the most part, you will. I think absolutely, at least from my experience, you absolutely will. But I mean, you don't have to win it all.
No, and not all at the moment, not all at once, right? You could have visions, you can have dreams, and you can keep going. And that's what I love about this idea, that you have all these different businesses, which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And you talk about humble beginnings. So you are from Stratford, which is a small town. How many hours is it from Toronto, the big city?
About 2 hours. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not that bad. It's not that far, really.
No, not that far.
No, but growing up, it probably felt like a world away.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And when you grow up in Stratford, I mean, it's just a completely different world, really. You're pretty sheltered and very small town. Like, you don't lock your doors and things like that. And so, I mean, I didn't even know an entrepreneur, I don't think, growing up. I wouldn't have known what that was until much, much later.
And you talk very openly about your family. Why do you share so much of that? Is that cathartic for you, or do you believe that that is part of really who you are? People need to know that this is Emily Lyons, your past, your part of your family. That's what makes you you.
Well, it's interesting because for a while after I started, I was very not secretive, but selective, I guess, with what I shared. And I didn't think that that was what people wanted to know about. I thought if they knew the different struggles I'd been through, different things that had happened with my family and with my own personal struggles, I thought I would lose clients. People wouldn't want to work with me. People they wouldn't respect me. They wouldn't want to follow me on social media. And it wasn't until 2012, I think, that I started to really open up about just here and there, little snippets of my story. And that is when I saw people connecting with me on a whole other level. And so I had people reaching out to me saying, your story helped me so much and inspired me that I could do it, that I could survive things, that I could get help for my mental health struggles, things like that. And so once I saw that it wasn't the picture perfect curated image that they wanted to see, that they wanted to see the real raw story of me. And I just stopped holding back. And so I really think it's so important that we all share our story. We make our mess our message. We share the parts of our life where we fell flat on our face, because we all have many times, I'm sure, and what we learned from it, because that is what people are going to relate to. We can't all relate to success, but we can all relate to struggle and failure. And we don't know who is listening to our story that needs to hear that. And so, yes, it's a part of me. No, I'm no longer ashamed of it. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of where I came from. I'm proud of all the different parts of my story. And that's who I am. Take it or leave it.
Oh my goodness. I swear, I'm feeling like my heart is beating. I'm feeling, yeah, because it really, it resonates. It strikes emotion in me, because I mean, every woman, every person has their story. I have a story. I've shared so much here on the podcast, but I hesitate a lot to share because, like you, I feel people experience me a certain way, and I'm always nervous how, the good girl, the jazz hands, will be experienced. And it's been such a journey for me, but I look to you and I see what you're saying and what you're sharing, and your openness around certain topics. It makes me feel, if I'm feeling it, that means others are feeling it too, which then you're doing something very important in this world. You're not just an entrepreneur, right? You're actually doing something very important in this world. And you speak very openly about your mental health, your addiction, your anxiety, and you talk about how you felt when your sister passed away and what happened to your life and for you. And maybe I don't want to take you back there completely, but maybe you could talk a little bit about it and what that was like for you.
So both of my siblings were born with cystic fibrosis, and that's a terminal genetic disease. So it skipped me. I'm the middle child. For whatever reason, I don't carry the gene even, so I can't even have a child with CF. Just the luck of the draw, I guess. But it made for a very wild upbringing, because a lot of near death with my siblings and things like that. But it made my sister and I very, very close. And, as I said, she gave me the book that started my journey into entrepreneurship. And she surprised me with my first laptop, because when I started, I didn't have a computer. So I was using the public library, actually. And so she surprised me with my laptop. And as I started to get into business, I was really busy those last few years. And then she just suddenly got sick out of nowhere in 2011. And within, 24 hours, she was in a coma, and then she passed away. And so, yeah, it was beyond traumatic for me, I guess, because I'd grown up with her being sick, and so many times where she'd almost died, and she'd gotten life-saving surgeries. She'd had two double lung transplants. And I guess I never really thought she was going to die. And especially at that point, because I had just seen her a few days before, we were laughing and joking. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I know, I'm beside her hospital bed, and they're removing her from her machines, and she's gone. And so just life as I knew it, kind of in that moment, just completely changed. It was like, who am I? What is the point of all this? Where am I going? And it was like I just was cut loose from this umbilical cord of safety, I guess, because she'd always been kind of my safety, my consistent. Our family broke up when we were young. Her and I went to live with my dad. My brother went with my mom, and it was just always her and I. And so it was just this terrible period of my life of, yeah, just trying to make it through the day, trying to figure out what the point of it all was. Why was I going to continue on with life? And figuring out who I was again and what the purpose
And
was.
you talk about you were masking anxiety and very deep feelings with alcohol.
Yeah, so I drank daily. It was the only way I could really get through, because I had just severe panic, severe anxiety, depression. And so I drank, I would wake up and I would be counting down the hours until it would be like acceptable to have a drink. So it'd be like, okay, noon, I can have a drink because people have with lunch. But it got to a point where it was just making it all worse. And so she passed in June. She passed June 1st. By September, I was trying to get help. Well, actually, before that, I was trying to get help, but nobody was really listening to me. And so I'd talk to family members. I'd went to CAMH a few times, and, you know, I got you're okay. Here's some pamphlets, call this number. Family members, you're okay. And I guess because too, we never really want to say how bad it is because we don't want to be that crazy person because, you know, especially as women, we're so quick to be labeled as crazy. It's thrown in our faces like, oh, crazy. And so never, ever do we want to be seen as that person. And so I guess I would downplay it a little bit until finally it got to that point in September where I was like, no, like I need help. I had caught a flu. And so I couldn't drink for a few days. And without being able to drink, I saw how bad it was. And so when I came out of being sick with that flu, it was like, oh my God, like I can't make it through a day without alcohol. I am so depressed. I can't eat. And it had been like 2 days or something since I'd eaten anything.
Wow.
You know, I think I'm an opposite of a lot of people where when I get so upset, my stomach is just so nauseous and so in knots, I can't eat anything.
No, I'm the same.
So, oh, are you?
Oh, I cannot. I cannot. Not when I'm having periods of stress and trauma. Yeah,
You're the first
terrible.
one to talk to. Everybody tells me I'm the total opposite. And it is terrible.
Really?
Lose weight like crazy.
Like crazy. And then you get, and then people say really nasty things about you and peg you with all kinds of eating disorders and issues.
Yes.
And it's like, no, I'm in complete emotional turmoil here, people. I need help. It's not, I'll eat, like I would eat anything at that point, but I can't.
And
I cannot.
Oh, you look so great. You got to tell me what diet you're on or whatever it is. Or like, oh, I got to get on, or I say it's stress and anxiety. And they'll say like, oh, I got to get on that diet. It's like, no, you don't.
No. And I used to call it the D diet. It's called the divorce diet, where I literally would be able to look at, especially a woman, I would look at her and I would know that she was either in the middle of a very high conflict, high stress separation, divorce, or just about to go through it. Like it was so obvious to me because all over her face and then her waist would be this big.
Mm-hmm.
And it would happen very quickly. And then, so now I never got the benefits of that D diet. I got rid of him, but I didn't get the benefits. I kept all the weight. So, you know, people make a joke of it now, but I hear you because stress and mental health is very much, it harbors in our tummies, right? It is what it is. So not being able to eat and having that stress of knowing that you're going down a slippery slope. It's very, very, very scary, particularly when people aren't listening to you, right? And people weren't listening to you because they probably thought, oh, you look great. You're fine. Don't worry about it. It's just a drink here and there. You'll be fine. And it wasn't.
I kept hearing that. I felt like I was screaming inside and nobody was listening. You know, and I remember I was on the subway the one day in Toronto, and there was right before I finally got help, when they finally listened to me at CAMH, and I was sitting on the subway and there was a advertisement for cystic fibrosis, and it had a girl underwater and it said, having CF is like drowning on the inside. And she was gasping for breath. And I just started sobbing and I jumped up on the seat of the subway and I ripped down the ad. And I remember these guys, there was like this group of friends on the subway and they're all just looking at me like, who is this crazy lady? But I was just sobbing. I just wanted it to all go away. And that was like it was everywhere, I felt like.
And so you went into a program and you felt that you got the help you needed.
It was incredible. I recommend it to everybody.
Please, I wish I had time.
It was the best thing that I've ever done. I went there and I said, no, I can't eat. I'm a danger to myself. And so that's when he was like, okay, I've got to call my manager. And they were like, we're going to put you on a form where you're not allowed to leave now for 48 hours until you've been assessed by a psychiatrist. And now when I heard that, that was a whole other panic
Yeah,
in my mind. Like, what? Now
that's terrifying.
Yes, it was terrifying. But once I got through that 48 hours and I saw the psychiatrist, and she let me know, you can come and go as you please, but being here is a gift, and this is what's going to happen. And so for the next month, it was getting help, people listening to me, and it was incredible. And openly talking about it. There was no shame. It was no hiding it. It was just, we're all here because we want to get help. And so it was just this incredible revelation in this incredible place where we could just all be ourselves and talk openly about our struggles and our traumas. And it was wonderful.
And had you launched Femme Fatale at that point?
I did. I'd had it for 2 years at that point.
And where was the business at this point?
So we were profitable, but we were still predominantly nightlife. So not in the corporate world. I had a close friend that worked with me, and luckily she was able to manage a lot of the things for me. But I did some of it from the hospital.
Wow.
But it was tricky managing both, especially because I did not want anybody to know that I was there.
Right. We hide our, I hesitate to use the word demons, but we hide that part of ourselves very well until we're ready. Mm-hmm. Very well. It's a coping mechanism, mm-hmm. right? It's the way we want to be experienced. We don't want people to know that about us.
That we struggle, that we're human, right. God forbid.
That we're human, God forbid. Exactly. So you are through the program and you're feeling obviously much better, and Femme Fatale starts to grow, mm-hmm. and grow, mm-hmm. and grow. And then when do you launch your next business? At what point?
In 2014. So
wow.
That was, and I remember I kept hearing, no, don't stick with what you know. It's too much. But, like an entrepreneur, I don't listen very well.
And what was next? Then it became the Femme Fatale Media Group. Is that what came next, or what?
Well, we expanded Femme Fatale Media Group with different services prior to that. So in 2012, we expanded with other services. We focused on the corporate world. We expanded cities and then countries, and then kept on growing that. And then I just had, some other sparks of inspiration. I wanted to do something in the clean beauty space, specifically around lashes, because I wanted a clean lash glue. And so that came to be. And then Lyons Elite shortly after, because of, it was all based on passions, really, and just things that fueled me. And I had to see them come to fruition. And because it was based on my passions, I was just so driven to see them succeed. And it's funny because quite often I'll hear people say passions and entrepreneurship don't mix, and I'm what? For me, it couldn't be the more opposite. I need that passion. It's what fuels me. I mean, I have started other businesses that haven't succeeded because I just launched them because I knew that they would be successful monetarily. And that's never been the drive for me. It's never been money. It's always been the building of the businesses and the passion behind it and loving all of the journey of it. And so,
and I'm first, I want to say that I meant to say this to you at the very beginning of our conversation, which is I wanted to offer my condolences about your mom.
Oh, thank you.
I know what that's like. I lost my dad a few years ago, and he was one of my closest friends and my biggest supporter, particularly when it came to my career. So I know that feeling. So I connect with you on that level for sure. And you talk about how this all happened during the pandemic, mm-hmm. so very recently. And I think you just came up the 1 year anniversary in November. Is that right?
Yeah.
So right in like the throes of COVID, when people weren't allowed in hospital rooms and weren't allowed with their loved ones, you're in your car in the parking lot working.
Yes. Yes.
Because that brought you sanity. That kept you grounded. That kept you who you are. Some people would say, that's craziness. I would have broken down. I would have curled up in a ball like half of the world and not been able to continue. But you didn't do that.
Mm-hmm. That goes back, to just when you love what you do, it brings you some solace. But when times get tough, we can focus on all the negatives and make things worse for ourselves, or we can look for anything good that we have and hold on to that. And I mean, life is tough enough. There's always going to be ups and downs and traumas. And why not just focus on the good whenever we can, however that is, whatever that is, make our lives the best that it can be in whatever circumstance that we're going through. And I think that's because I grew up with two terminally ill siblings. My mind is always kind of focused on where's the good in this, or what is there to be grateful for.
And do you do that? Do you practice gratitude every day?
I don't, but I do sometimes. Yeah, I get my brother to do it.
I love That's awesome, Emily. I love it. You're just so real. Yeah, not every day though. Your brother does that for you? He helps too.
He was very negative last year after our mom passed, and was in this tailspin constantly of why me? I hate our life. Why do bad things always happen to our family? And so I said, this is what I want you to do. Practice this gratitude journal. Just write 5 things every day you're grateful for. And it completely changed his mindset because he was shocked with how much he had to be grateful for every day. It was like, my sister, or, Trikafta, a new med that came out, or, just all these different things. It was things like I got him the new PlayStation, and and so it naturally has your brain focusing on those good things and gets you out of that mindset of there. And if you look for it, there's always so much to be grateful for. And my mom was very much that way. She was very positive, very, very, very sweet, and always looking at the positive in every situation. So she was a great example of that.
I understand. I love that. It's a gift to have had that in your life at some point, and particularly somebody so close to you. It's definitely a gift. Tell me about your dog. How many do you have?
3.
Oh, you're so lucky. I used to have 2. Now that was many years ago. Now I'm on to another one, but tell me about them. I'm a huge dog person. I'm a crazy dog person.
Oh, me too. I'm obsessed. There was 4 for a bit because my mom had an old dog, but now my brother's got her, but for a bit. So there was 4 for a little while, and it was chaotic. But I had 2 for a while, 2 little Yorkies. Then Charlotte, the older one, she passed away suddenly, and I was devastated. And so I ended up going to the Toronto Humane Society, saw this one little dog in this other area off to the side. And so I inquired about her because she looked really scared. They told me she wasn't available for adoption. So I kept calling, kept emailing. They said, unfortunately, she has to go through surgeries and behavioral testing because she'd come from a bad situation. And they didn't know if she was going to be adoptable. And being, the annoying person that I am, I kept following it. And I found the director for the Humane Society, reached out to him on LinkedIn and convinced him to let me adopt her. So while I was still going through that, because I think it took 2 weeks, I saw a Yorkie up for adoption, a puppy, and went to see him.
A baby.
Before I heard back from the Humane Society. And so when I heard back, I was like, oh, oops, guess that makes 3.
So tell me their names.
So there's Pippa, the oldest, and then there's Rocky, who's the Yorkie, and then Penny, who is the rescue.
And Penny is a mixed breed?
She's a mix, yes. They had said that she was a terrier as well, but we got DNA testing, and she ended up being Lhasa Apso, Pekingese, and something else. But
so you have small dogs.
Small ones, yeah. But she was only about 7 or 8 pounds when I got her, and now she's 14, 15 pounds. That's a chunker.
Yeah, I have I think 14 pounds would be the size of my dog's paw.
What do you have?
I have a golden retriever.
Oh, you have a golden retriever.
Yes, and he's a very large golden retriever. For some reason, he was the biggest in his litter, and he's continued to be he's a massive golden, this huge head, and he's really stocky, and he's super beautiful. And my kids laugh all the time. They're like, Mom, this is your baby. Like, we had a baby. Because I'm like, you're teenagers, you don't need me. The baby needs me. Like, I am obsessed with my puppy. So I understand. I know you've talked about your dogs. Some people think I'm cuckoo, but I think animals bring you joy, right?
So much joy.
Find things that bring you joy in this world. And if you found a pandemic puppy, good for you. Make sure you treat it properly. I say that all the time, but find what brings you joy. And if a dog is what brings you joy, get a dog, right?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, they are the funniest little things. They make
They're
me
the
laugh.
best. They're the best. And people always say, "Oh my God, you're always out walking your dog." I said, "No, he comes walking with me. He
Mhm.
joins me. I would be out walking anyway." So,
Exactly.
right. You see what I mean? So I love that you have a dog. I want to talk about NFTs. Please, can we talk about NFTs?
Yes, absolutely. I'm obsessed.
Okay. Okay. So I'm getting there. And we should tell everybody what an NFT is. My younger son, who is almost 15, is obsessed.
Oh,
Like
really? Oh, isn't that funny?
obsessed. So he told me about this, I guess a couple, maybe now it's a bit 6 weeks or so that he's been obsessing over NFTs. Every day he's showing me his NFT and the money it's making, and then he's on to another one and it's making this money. So I don't understand. There's no money. What are you talking about? There's no money. Mom, please, can you get with the program? Can you understand what's happening here with the world? So I saw on your Instagram some of the NFTs that you love, and they're gorgeous. They're absolutely beautiful. See, I'm not into the NFTs. I mean, I like what he likes, but I like I'm more on your vibe. I feel what you're doing. Maybe you
Mhm.
can tell everybody what it is and why you're so into it.
Yes, as a non-fungible token. So it's basically digital art. You can purchase it, and it goes so much deeper than that. And you
Yes.
really can't grasp it until you start purchasing your when you first purchase your first NFT, something happens with you. You feel different about it. um, it's this online ownership, and then you're buying into a community more so than anything. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, you can make a ton of money doing it. Absolutely, there are so many different opportunities within the space. I mean, yesterday I was looking at digital land you can buy within games that then you can put ad space on and make revenue from that. But I love getting involved with different NFTs that have um, different components of it that are really connected with who I am. So a lot of like female led different projects like that. So this one recently, actually all of the ones pretty much that I've gotten into recently are all female led, female artists, all of that. And then they've got a great road path that gives back to different charities benefiting females, stuff like that, but elevating female artists. And there's a lot of really young female artists, which is really
Mm-hmm.
cool. 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds that are really taking off because of their NFTs. But there
It's
is this
unbelievable.
massive community behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And you get in it, and it's like something that everybody, oops, sorry about that.
That's okay.
My thing is just, sorry about that. It's this massive community that you get into it, and it's like you're just accepted into this entire world. And it's like, okay, now it's like you're this big digital family. There's
It's
Discord
incredible.
and you're chatting and there's events, and it's wild.
I'm into it. I'm actually into it, and much to my son's delight, he's so excited. He's like, "I'm so happy that you're into this." So I'm was very excited to see that you're into NFTs too. I think it is the future.
I love it.
There's a lot going on, and I think it's entrepreneurial also because it's a new space. It's a little bit heady, but it's a new space.
Mm-hmm. There's so much too behind the actual things too. It's not just the artwork for a lot of them. There's stuff behind it that you get
Got
with
a
it, get
story.
access to, and so much more. But I'm working on a new project, a new app that we're really going to be integrating a lot of the Web3 space into it. So I'm excited about that.
That's cool. I'm gonna be watching for that.
It was
And tell me
actually
about the.
the initial idea that sparked it with me. So
Say
because
that again.
so Keith, my friend Keith that I did the
Yes.
podcast with recently, he's very into Web3, and he was the one that had been
Mm-hmm.
for a while on my case. Like, you would love this. You would love this community. You got to get into it. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And like a lot of people at first, it's like, I don't understand this. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like another language, but once you buy that first one, something clicks. But yeah, so he was saying, you should do this and you should do that. And we're bouncing ideas off each other. And then it's just like, there's so much opportunity in that space. And like you said, it's the future for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's I mean, if you think back to where the digital space was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and where it is now, think about where we're going to be even in 5 years. That's how fast it's happening. It's like, boom, we got, you got to get on it. And if anything, speaking with people like yourself who have vision, who are driven by passion, that see something, right? That should maybe be, I don't want to say a reminder, but maybe it sparks some interest in others to say, wait a second, it is something I'm interested in. I shouldn't hold back. Maybe I should take a chance.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Tell me about the Lyons Den.
The Lyons Den. Oh my gosh, that's been
I
so
love the
much.
name. I love the
Thank you.
name. I love the name.
So I wanted for a long time to be able to teach people what I did, from having $0, no experience, no connections, no investors, to launching successful businesses. Over the years, a lot of friends, they do coaching, but it's $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to do the programs. And so I wanted to help the underdogs, people like I was, because how are you going to get access to that? I know that I could have never afforded that. I remember somebody quoted me $1,000 on a website at the beginning, and that blew my mind. Like, how could I ever afford that, let alone for a coaching program or something like that? And so I built out the Lyons Den, and it's a learning platform. So you log in, I upload new videos every week. So there's a ton of different videos on there, and it's just like step-by-step trainings, things I've learned over the last 13 years, almost 13 years, and then things I'm doing right now. And then there's templates to implement it. There's live events and webinars. So I've got one later today with Mike Zeller. Keith was just on recently. A lot of different entrepreneur friends come on and teach different things that normally they wouldn't teach, but they teach it to my den members. A lot of different things within the den. It's also a community, so we've got a chat community, all different like-minded entrepreneurs to give feedback on different things. And of course there's power in proximity, so they refer things to one another and all of that. So it's been incredible, and we launched for just $7 a month to give
That's amazing.
The opportunity, 30 cents a day. I wanted to do it for anybody that wanted to get in that normally couldn't afford it. And then it's going up. I think tomorrow the price goes up. We were redesigning the website, but we wanted to get the opportunity. So we've got 1,000 members in the den now. And
wow.
Yeah, so it's been incredible. It's been really fun.
1,000 members. And so I loved
success stories already. It's been like, yeah.
I love that you have an angle to it where there's mentorship. And that is, that's a key for so many people.
Coaching together on the Zoom.
That's incredible. So how can people find you? I know you're easily accessible via social media. Which platform? Would it be LinkedIn or Instagram or both?
Yeah, both of those. I'm active on both. Probably Instagram the most.
Yeah, Instagram over LinkedIn, because you're so popular on LinkedIn too. I love it. I'm on that too. Yeah, I mean, that's, and before I forget, so just tell us your handle so everybody has them.
Emily Lioness.
Okay.
So
I will put that up too. I want people to know where they can find you. So this was my aha moment that I had with you. I'm doing some reading, and the address of one of your businesses came up, and it was like, I don't know what it was. It was like an epiphany. It was a memory. It was something. And here I am reading, and I see you. Okay, you're gonna think I'm a nut right now. You're wearing something red. You're in a small office. There are desks, like it's a barren kind of room, and there's a few desks on one side and a few desks on the other. And the first desk at the front of this office, I believe, was your desk. There was a lot of pictures. There was a lot of things on this desk, but it wasn't by any means a fancy office at all. It was just a room. And I feel like I was there interviewing you about something.
Jewels? Watches?
Oh my God, yes, it was. Oh my God, I knew you were going to remember. Do you remember me being there from CTV interviewing?
I thought so. I couldn't remember where I remembered you from, but now when you said that, because I remembered that office.
Emily, is that crazy that I had that memory?
That's wild. Great.
Oh, what was it about the watches? Why? There was something about the clock.
Launched. It was because I launched Jules in memory of my sister. Jules was her nickname. And so I think we were just talking about the launch of it.
But it had something to do with there was something with time. There was something with a clock. There was something happening in the world. Does that make any sense?
I launched them because time is limited and Julia's time was limited. And so I wanted to keep her memory going. I don't know if maybe that was it.
That's a good line, though. I want to say that's a very good tagline. But I remember, and you were wearing red. Can you believe that I remember this?
That's crazy.
And it was a long time ago. And you remember that office?
I do.
You don't have that office anymore.
No.
No. You've changed. I would assume you've changed offices. So my last question to you, because this has been so joyful for me, I've loved this. I could talk to you forever. What do you think is next? What's next for Emily Lyons and
hopefully
crazy empire?
I feel like I'm just getting started. I really do.
Yay.
I'm just getting started. Hopefully much, much, much more.
Yeah, you've got big plans.
I've got a book that I've been working on that's coming out. And so I'm excited to get that out to the world. And hopefully this new app coming out and getting further into NFTs and Web3 and who knows what else.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing so much with me and for our listeners and just being here. Your energy is amazing. And I hope we get to connect again soon.
Me
You're
too.
wonderful. Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the DL. Thanks, everybody. Be well.
Thank you.